Hey guys, as usual there's always something going on around here, and as is typical in the Midwest, when the weather's nice you got to take advantage of it. So after some hot humid weather, it's cooled off a bit, so I'm out in the garage to do a little scrapping. Yeah, you can't save them all. In particular, this set I got along with several others from a house that was being torn down. It was in Bakelite cabinet. It's an Admiral, and the cabinet was cracked and missing the back, missing knobs. So I figured it's not worth fixing. Plus, in that box right behind it is a Craftsman chrome-plated chassis I picked up a year or two ago that's missing a picture tube, and I'm pretty sure this will work in it. This is the first generation rectangular picture tubes where their sides are really flat and the glass is really thick, and they're even numbers. So this is a 16-inch. A year or two later they came out with 17-inch. It was more rounded, which meant less pressure on the sides, which meant they could use thinner glass. But that's how you can tell it's the really early ones. The sides are dead flat. Okay, so what I want to talk about is what is worth salvaging, in my opinion. From years of doing this, when I started out I hoarded everything. I just keep the whole chassis. But as the years went on, the space is premium and I can't save everything, and to be honest there are a lot of things I've never used. So picture tube, yeah, absolutely, if it's good. It's one of the main reasons I'm parting this out. Other things, this little cover on the side, they're often missing. That allows you to get in there and clean the tuner. Yeah, you could fabricate a new one, but it's nice to have the original, so I'll save that. Save the tube shields, because these are often missing as well. And they're also often very rusty, but throw them in a little evapor-rust and they come out clean. Of course, we'll save the tubes, test them at some point if they're good. Specialty tubes like the 5U4, super common back then, and now they are still common, but they're used in so many things, especially guitar amps, so that the price on them has gotten a little crazy, so I tend to save those. Iron trap magnet. Again, back then I'm sure they were common as dirt, so nobody thought much of them, but if you're missing one, it can be hard to track one down with the right magnetic strength and the right type. So we definitely want to say that. What I typically do is you have to take it off to get the picture tube out, then I'll put it right back on the neck and try to keep the right orientation this way versus that way. So when if I ever use this picture tube, I'll have this to go with it. I don't even know if it's good yet. I haven't tested it yet. Now to take it off, I just had to remove a band and take that off. That should be sufficient, but often the rubber mounts have fused to the glass, which can be a little tricky. In this case, I think we're all right. And I highly suggest you prepare somewhere to put it, because after I take it out, I immediately am going to want to set it down on something. This is a cement floor with grit on it. You do not want to scratch the face of that CRT. So, I'm going to take the top of a styrofoam cooler here, and we're going to plop it right down in that. Now, as is common of these early rectangular sets, the chassis were often originally designed for round picture tubes, and this is no exception. I can see there's a curve below it. And they mounted these brackets to give it support. They're in close enough that there's a curve of metal that's wrapping around, so no, I can't pop this out as easily as I thought. I need to loosen these up and spread them out a little bit. Looks like there are screws in the front that allow you to do that. Of course, I don't have a flip blade screwdriver, so I gotta go get one. But before I do, let's look at some other stuff. Oh, and if you're watching my recent videos, you've heard me complain about the weather a lot. Too too cold, too humid, too dry. You might be wondering, why does anybody live in the Midwest? Because aside from the crazy bipolar weather, we don't really get hurricanes or volcanoes or earthquakes. The weather can be kind of crazy. Temperature-wise makes you uncomfortable, but really no natural disasters, except the occasional flood. But in the major cities, it's not really an issue. And now and then you do get an absolutely perfect day. Alright. Just taking a second thought to see if there's any way I can get this out without Nope. All right, I'll be back. All right, here we go. Now, if you're wondering why am I removing it without even testing it first, it's because even if it's bad, there's other stuff I want to take out, and this is in the way. It can get frustrating too, so yeah, I loosen that, but I can't get it out because of this bracket. As I say, they modified these over the years. 10-inch, 12-inch, rectangular. This picture tube's evolved. Maybe it's enough. No, not worth it. Do not want to stress anything, so I gotta loosen the other side too. And what else after this? Well, you might think the iron, like the power transformer, and I have. I'll tell you what, they're big, they're heavy, they take up space. I've never needed to replace a power transformer, except in a Predicta that was in miserable shape, and I think I got water inside of it. Same goes for the focus coil. The only time I needed to replace one was when I messed it up. Now, I'm talking about these early black and white sets that tended to be a bit over-engineered and robust. So that's that. On the other hand, these big old TV power transformers, if you ever had to replace one, they're really expensive. And it could be repurposed for a guitar amp or anything. They're going to have a 5-volt winding for the 5U4, a 6.3 volt winding or two with high current capabilities for all the tubes in the TV, and then a pretty healthy B+, typically something like 700 volt center tapped to give you a 300 volt filtered full wave rectified DC with a pretty decent amount of current. You can see how big it is, and this is a modest TV, so I won't say don't save it, but after accumulating a couple dozen that I've never used, I don't know that I will. And I've passed up on a lot of them over the years just because I didn't want them sitting around. What I find more useful is vertical output transformer, audio output transformer, filter choke, blocking transformer if it uses one, yoke flyback. Never really needed to replace them. Some sets they're much easier to get than others, so I tend to save them, but you know, use your best judgment on that. This is a really common chassis. If I needed to get a replacement yoke focus coil flyback for this, I don't think I'd have too much trouble. That being said, yeah, I will keep them all. So this is the focus coil, that's the yoke. Fairly interchangeable on all these black and white sets because they all basically have the same electron gun structure. They need a similar magnetic field strength to focus it. And as far as the yokes go, if it's the same deflection angle, be it 54, 60, 66 degrees, 70 degrees, fairly interchangeable. Might as well save the CRT connector if it's in good shape. Things like that I won't save. The whole metal chassis, tube sockets, they're riveted in. It's not worth trying to get them out. Replacements aren't that hard to get. The electrolytic can capacitors I'm not going to save. The support structure for the yoke flyback, no. High voltage cage though, yes, because often these covers are missing. And this is a spring mounted hinged one. So this one is less likely to be half of it gone, because often it's this part that's gone. This copper plated, it's in really nice shape. That I'll hang on to. Antenna terminal bracket. May seem like a minor thing, worth saving, because they can be damaged or missing. Underneath, not much. I'm not going to save the paper caps. I'm not going to save the carbon comp resistors. I hesitate when I say that because if you want to be really authentic and replace carbon comps with carbon comps, especially the 2-watt variety, they're getting pretty pricey. If they're good, maybe you want to save them. But what you do want to save are these coils. The horizontal oscillator coil, the width coil, and the linearity coil. Not uncommon for these to be open. Can be a little tricky to track down. Usually they're fairly easy to get out. So I recommend you save those. And then all the controls. Tuner, maybe, but this one's messed up. It's missing some sections. It got a little dinged up, and it's a really common turret type tuner, so I don't know if I'll bother. Controls like this in particular, where it's multifunction, where it's power, volume, contrast, something like that, those can be tricky to replace, especially when they have specific types of shafts for knobs. So definitely we're going to be saving all those controls. Peaking coils, yeah, maybe, especially if you can identify the chassis and know what value they are and label them before you stick them in a parts drawer. That's what I meant about the tuner being damaged. Yeah, these sections are replaceable and a lot, but I have a bunch of those tuners. They're not uncommon by any means. This is another part that you might want to hang on to. There's already a screw missing. Sometimes these are missing from the chassis. And you can imagine it's be a bit of a pain to fabricate one from scratch, and without it, well, you're not shielding the IF, so it's susceptible to picking up noise. Alright, so I'm going to get to it and clip out all these controls and all the stuff I outlined, and we'll wrap up by testing that pitch tube, which is probably a 16 kp4. I was close to 16 rp4, so is it any good? Well, let's find out. Filament. Yeah, filament lit right up. You want these two to light up on the right hand side. It can take a while. This set probably hasn't been turned on in 50 plus years, the set that this came out of. This side, both kind of coming up. Oh, sorry, the left-hand side, not the right-hand side. So we're getting a good G1, waiting on G2 to come up. Wiggling the socket on the CRT to make sure I make a good connection. Jump ahead and check the emissions. We have something. Cut off. Yeah, we have something. So it's not dead. It's not great, but yeah, G2's starting to come up. Alright, we'll let it sit for 15 minutes or so. Alright, been about 15 minutes. Both lights are on strongly, solidly. Emissions are in the green. No, it's not a new CRT, but I wasn't expecting that. It would definitely produce an image. And we've got good cut-off control, so this is definitely a winner. And my plan is to use it in that Craftsman RC200 at some point. So those are my tips for what's worth saving, what isn't. Of course, use your own judgment with that. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.